Excuse me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
You believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Welcome to the podcast. I know there's a lot of links for you guys to click on, so checking out ours means a lot. Today's episode, we're breaking down the second half storylines of the NBA season. This past weekend was the NBA All-Star Game. We did a podcast on that. You can go back and listen to it. This episode, we're breaking down the second half stories and highlights and what we can expect. So, games start tonight, Thursday night. A whole slate of games for you to check out. But these are the biggest stories. These are the stories that I think are going to grab the attention of the general public, and because of that, you need to know about them. So let's talk about it. Starting off, right off the top, let's talk about the team that's leading the Western Conference, the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, when they made the mega deal over the summer to go get Anthony Davis, when they traded their young core and their future for the present, they knew they only had LeBron for so long. He's in year 17. You got to go win a title with this guy while you can have him. So they go and get Anthony Davis, arguably one of the most dominating big men in the league. And now the Lakers have been known for getting dominant big men. You think Shaq, Kareem, Wilt, George Mikan. These are the dudes that are in the rafters in the Staples Center. Anthony Davis is a potential guy who could join those people in the rafters. So when the season starts, you're thinking you got LeBron, you got Anthony Davis, you got a kind of a cast of mismatched players around him. When we looked across the city to the Clippers, that looked like a team that was already well put together. They were the 8th seed the year before. They go get Kawhi Leonard, the finals MVP. They go get Paul George, a guy who was in the MVP race last year. You go add them to a Clippers team that already was a playoff team. Immediately you think, okay, the Clippers are going to be better than the Lakers this year. Before the season started, I was already willing to chalk the Lakers up to, this is a team that's probably going to be the 3 or 4 seed. But when the playoffs hit, LeBron's going to hit the extra level that he always hits. Anthony Davis will be reinvigorated being on a new team. He'll be able to play really good. And any team that's with LeBron James, doesn't matter if they played in 0 NBA Finals or 7 NBA Finals, playing with LeBron James helps. It's a fact. You play with LeBron, you're going to be better. So I thought, okay, this is probably a 3 or 4. Going in the playoffs, they'll figure everything out. They'll be in the Western Conference Finals at least. Maybe they get to the NBA Finals, and we get a good matchup against Giannis or Boston. Something with a good storyline. What we didn't expect was LeBron to go completely opposite of what he's been doing in years past, where in years past he would rest, he would take games off. Right around this time is when he would start getting back into playing shape or getting back into the rhythm of playing every night. This season, he's been doing that. He's played a bunch of games. Anthony Davis has played a bunch of games. They haven't been hindered too greatly by injury. There's not been a lot of injuries on the Lakers to hold him back. Guys like Danny Green has been doing his job. Rajon Rondo is really the only piece that is not working for that team. But you come out of the All-Star break at 41-12. They're leading the Western Conference by about 4 games. The Nuggets, Clippers, and Jazz trail them in the win column. So the question is anybody going to catch the Lakers before the season's over? And I'm thinking to myself, yes. Because I don't think that Frank Vogel and the Lakers are going to let LeBron and Anthony Davis play in some of these meaningless games. Once they clinch a playoff spot, once they know that they're going to be a home court team in the playoffs, I can totally see the Lakers sitting guys. I can totally see the guys resting, cruising into the playoffs. Because, you look at the Clippers, who've been resting guys all season, and they're hoping that it pays off. They're hoping that they spend a ton of money on a new training facility. They spend a ton of money on Kawhi, on Paul George. They mortgaged the entire farm to get him, trading all their picks for the next, 100 years. So they're expecting that their plan's going to work. Paul George didn't play the first month of the season. Kawhi has been taking some games off, so they're ready to go. They are on fire. They are ready to go. The Lakers, on the other hand, have been playing a bunch of games. They've jumped out to this 4-game lead. I think that they're going to kind of pull it back. I don't anticipate them putting the pedal to the metal before they absolutely have to. They know, and LeBron knows, that there's only so much juice in the tank left. And you're in year 17. You need to be able to conserve your energy. You need to pick your spots. And that's what made MJ great. That's what made Kobe great. That's what makes the greats great, is knowing when, at the end of their careers, when to pick their spots. Tim Duncan was a guy who, on an every Wednesday night type of dude, who could go out there and give you 15, 7 boards, and maybe a block. But in the playoffs, he knew, okay, I need to be able to step up, and that's when he had big defensive plays. That's when he was able to really put what his best attributes were, which was being able to pass out of the block, being able to score down low. That's what Tim Duncan was great at, and in big moments, you knew you could count on him. That's what LeBron's going to do for this Lakers team. This Lakers team's unproven. Anthony Davis has been in the playoffs twice in his career. One time he loses to the Warriors, the next time he's able to beat the Trailblazers and get to the second round. But for the most part, he's an unproven commodity in this league when we talk about playoffs. And you know, if you listen to this podcast before, when we talk about any sport, I think playoffs matter. I hold the playoffs on a completely different pedestal than I do the regular season. Anthony Davis is a very good regular season guy. I want to see what he can do in the playoffs. I think the teams are going to catch the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers ride this out and are the number one seed going into the playoffs. The Bucks are the other team in the Eastern Conference. They're leading the conference. Giannis is playing on a different level. Chris Middleton is playing very well. The Lopez brothers aren't terrible, but the problem is that Giannis did this last year. This is as NBA fans and as fans of sports, I will say that we are very impatient. We will watch you grow. We'll watch you blossom. We'll watch you on Sunday night, the matinee game against the Rockets in your fourth year, and say, this is going to be the next great NBA player. This is going to be the next guy that we're going to put all our eggs in. This could be the potential face of the league. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, I know a lot of people at the beginning of his career, especially on this ascent, were saying, well, you know, he's got a really hard name to pronounce. Well, it's going to be really hard with KD and Kawhi and Dame Lillard and Westbrook and Kyrie for this guy to really make a place for himself. He's made a place. He is in a elite category, and he's now, if you talk to anybody in the league, he's a top 3, potentially the best player in the league, depending on who you talk to. So it's no shock that the Bucks are where they are. They're on pace right now to win 70 games. And we know the Warriors were the last team to win 70 games. They won 73 games, 73-9. They reset the mark that the Jordan Bulls did, 72-10. But that Bulls team won the championship. That Warriors team fell short. This Bucks team is going to be the deciding factor, because I can promise you this. I don't think that they're going to get to 70 games, period. I think that Giannis is going to be held back a little bit. I don't think Coach Bud is going to say, hey, let's go get this win mark at the expense of playing our guys, at the expense of not being well-rested and well-prepared going into the playoffs. I don't think that he's going to do that. I think he's too smart. I think he knows what he's doing. That said, if they are at 69 wins with like 3 games left, I could totally see them playing Giannis. But right now, as we go in the second half, I don't think that they're going to get to that point. I don't think they're going to get to 70 wins. But for a fun thought experiment, I want to say this to you. I want this on the record. I want you guys to think about this and mull it over in your brains as your day continues. Whenever you're listening to this, think about this for a second. You can even pause the podcast after I say this next take and consider it. If the Bucks get 70 games, they win 70 games, and then they end up losing to the Celtics or potentially losing to the Raptors, or, God forbid, they lose to the 76ers in the second or NBA Eastern Conference Finals. If they lose in one of those 2 rounds, if they don't even make the finals, this will be the last team that goes for 70 wins. This will be the last team that tries to eclipse the 70-win mark or even hit the 70-win mark, because every team, every analytic department, every front office in the league is going to say the sweet spot is between 67 and 60 games. If we can win 67 to 60 games, we're in a good spot. Because you look at teams that have won 65, 67, 70, 73, 69. You look at those teams that have won large amounts of games that eclipse the 67, 65 win mark. They don't do anything. They never are the teams that are competing in the NBA Finals. And if they are competing in the NBA Finals, if you're looking at the Warriors as the last team to win 70 games, they're not doing anything in the NBA Finals. They're not winning the NBA Finals. The Warriors were down 3-1 to the Thunder. If the Thunder don't choke that away, we're looking at a team that won 73 games and didn't even get to the NBA Finals. Okay? So this is a really good, I think, benchmark for what happens in the future. Like the Bucks with Giannis, every game that Giannis plays, there's a potential that history is going to be made. That is just a fact. That anytime he steps on the court, there's the potential that something incredible, something amazing is going to happen. Now, there's a couple guys like that in the league. LeBron's like that. I think Zion is like that. I think that Giannis is like that. I don't think Kawhi is in that category. Westbrook used to be in that category. I don't think he's there. Harden's another guy that I didn't mention that should be in that category. That anytime they step on the court, something historic is going to happen. We can look back on NBA history, now that the books are written and the print is dry. You look back and you look at Kobe's career. Between 2003 and 2011, anytime he stepped on the court, you didn't know if he could go for 60. You don't know if he could put up 70 shots. You don't know if he could try to eclipse 81 points. But every time he stepped on the court, you knew something incredible, the potential of something incredible could happen. Durant, same type of thing. I don't think he'll be like that after this Achilles injury. I am one of the only people in the world who doesn't think that when he comes back, he's going to be as good as he was. An Achilles injury is a career ender. And I don't care what you say, if you were a 100% player, which he wasn't when he got hurt, he was going on. Let's be real, guys. He was on the way out of his prime when he got hurt. This prime is now hurt because of this Achilles injury. If he was a 95 to 100% player before he got hurt, he's going to be somewhere in the range of 85 to 90% of what he was. That's very liberal of where he's going to be. He's going to be 90% of the players that he was. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that he's going to come back and be as incredible as he was beforehand. But Giannis is that type of guy. And when we talk about the 73 win mark, when we talk about the 70 game mark for the Bucks, his ability to fire at all cylinders, his ability to make something incredible happen, that is what separates him from everybody else. Can the 76ers start winning road games? So this is a team that I've talked about before. I mentioned it earlier on the podcast, and we brought it up a couple times on the shoot-around episodes, that I think that the NBA's biggest enigma, the biggest question that they have, is what to do with Embiid and Ben Simmons. Because the 76ers right now are the 5 seed. They would have to go on the road to play the Miami Heat. Right now, the 76ers are 9-19 away from the city of brotherly love. I can tell you this, guys. Now, I'm not an NBA insider. I'm not an NBA GM expert. I'm not some guru. But I'm a smart guy. I watch the games, and I know my history. Anytime that you have a duo like this with a point guard and a center that just aren't meshing, that just it doesn't work, the fit's not there, one of them leaves. One of them's got to go. Now, personally, I think both of them need shooting. I think Ben Simmons needs more shooting than Embiid does. And if I'm the 76ers, I think I roll the dice on Embiid and keep him and try to find a king's ransom deal for Simmons. If the Lakers could get whatever they got for Anthony Davis, and if the Clippers could get whatever they gave up for Paul George, I'm looking around the league and I'm saying, okay, it's somewhere in between the haul that Oklahoma City got for Paul George and the haul that the Lakers got for Anthony Davis. Because I think Ben Simmons is in that category. I think, if you really want to be honest, if we're looking at him on his best day, I think he does a little bit more than Paul George does. He's a younger player. He's a guy that doesn't have nearly as many injuries. Both of his shoulders work. There's not a history of switching his mind up and wanting to change teams. You look at Anthony Davis, too. A lot of injuries. Ben Simmons has had one major injury in his career, and granted it was a foot injury, but he hasn't had any problems since then. Embiid, completely other story. Embiid can't stay on the court. But I think the 76ers, I think the front office, just from watching the games and hearing what I hear out of Philadelphia, I think they're going to want to keep him more than they're going to want to keep Ben Simmons. So, if the 76ers get bounced, if they can't figure out how to win on the road, one of them is going to leave in this offseason. One of them is going to get traded. One of them is going to be on their way on another team. Now, who does this stink for the most? This is a segment that we haven't done yet, and I've been really, really, really trying to find a way to put it in here. It's the Jersey stock market. The Jersey stock market. This is my concept. Imagine the regular stock market where you can buy and sell your stocks. I sell and buy Jersey stocks. Should you buy a said player's jersey or should you sell? a said player's jersey. If the Heat get up on the 76ers 3-1, 3-2, you need to go on eBay. You need to start finding out what is the best deal you can get for your Simmons jersey and or your Embiid jersey, because one of them is gone, and the minute that they go, you're stuck. You're stuck with the jersey. You're stuck with a bad investment. So I'd just be thinking about that, especially in the second half of the season. If they can't figure out how to win, say, 7 more games, 8 more games on the road than they did in the first half of the season, there's a big problem in Philadelphia. I don't know how they fix it, especially when the road in the playoffs is going to be on the road if they're the 5 seed. They need to figure out a way to surpass some of these teams ahead of them. You look at the Eastern Conference standings right now. Of course, Milwaukee's in the first place. They're in the 1 seed. Toronto 6.5 games out. Boston is 8 games out. Miami's 11 games out. And, of course, Philadelphia's 12.5 games out of first place. Now, I don't think any of those teams catch Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee is going to be the secure 1 seed. So, if you're looking at Philadelphia, you're trying to figure out how do you get home court, A, and how do you end up not having to face the Milwaukee Bucks at any point in this playoffs before you absolutely have to. Like I said, I think that the NBA is a fickle mistress. I think that they are very rough on Giannis this year because we saw this ascension and we saw him not be able to do what he needed to get done in the playoffs. When he had the Raptors down 2-0, he wasn't able to finish the deal, wasn't able to win either of the next 4 games that were played. That's going to be rough for Giannis. But if you're the 76ers, you don't want Giannis Antetokounmpo to put your scalp on his head. You don't want him to be able to say, a young superstar in this league, to say, oh, I broke up this dynamic duo. You look at dynamic duos in the league. You look at Penny and Shaq. You look at Shaq and Kobe. You look at Westbrook and Harden. You look at Westbrook and Durant, to be completely honest with you. These dynamic duos, and you wonder who was able to split them up. Well, the Warriors, incredible team, did it. The Pistons did it to Shaq and Kobe. The Rockets did it to Shaq and Penny. But you look at these dynamic duos. You don't want Giannis to have that on his wall of acclimate. He's got an MVP, and he also broke up Embiid and Simmons and blew up Philadelphia. It's just one more reason not to tank, guys. Zion Williamson did not play a ton in the first half of the season, but the games he played were outstanding. This guy, coming in the league, he's got hip issues, he's got leg issues, he's kind of overweight. Is he Charles Barkley? Is he the next LeBron? All of these questions swirling around Zion as Ja Morant just gets the job done in Memphis. Memphis is the 8th seed right now. They're looking like they're going to try to make a push and make that playoffs, maybe get as high as a 7th seed. But if Zion can play very well in this next half, like Brandon Ingram was an all-star because Zion didn't play. If they can find a way to mesh Ingram, he can't take as many shots as he did before Zion got there. But if he can take maybe 3 or 4 shots fewer, Zion can get in the system. Drew Holiday is a really good point guard. Greg Monroe figures things out. Jackson Hayes has been a disappointment to me. I wanted him to be a little bit better. Lonzo Ball has been pretty good. Like, if we're being completely honest, the Pelicans look really good right now. Do I think that they have everything figured out? No. Zion, he's kind of a 4. He's a little too small to be a 5. But if they can figure out an offense that is able to move up and down the court and really capitalize on his athleticism, he's shorter than Blake Griffin is. And I always wanted Blake Griffin to be that small ball 5. I think that if the Lob City Clippers were in today's league, they would be winning titles. DeAndre Jordan on the court might have been a detriment to the Clippers team. But you put Zion on the court, who can stretch the floor. He can hit threes at a decent amount. He can dunk, clearly. He's a big enough body, and he grabs pretty good rebounds. He is a small ball 5 in the nerd's wet dream of the NBA. He's the guy that you want at that small ball 5. I don't think that he's going to get Rookie of the Year. I am a firm believer in that you have to play a certain amount of games to get it. Did Malcolm Brogdon deserve to win Rookie of the Year over a guy like Joel Embiid? Probably not. Embiid's clearly better, but Brogdon played the games. He had more tape. Embiid didn't play, so we don't know what he was able to do. Zion has been able to come back. He hasn't dealt with any more injuries since they held him out. I think that he missed a little bit too much time. It would not shock me if he got Rookie of the Year votes, but my Rookie of the Year vote would go to Ja Morant. But I think that the Pelicans could sneak into the playoffs, and this is how. You look at the teams that they are currently behind in the Western Conference. You look at the teams that are still fighting for a playoff spot. They're 19 games out of first place, but they're only 6 games behind Memphis. Portland is fighting for that 8 seed as well. San Antonio is going to tank. So you look at the teams that the Pelicans are going to have to jump. San Antonio is going to be a rough one to jump. Portland's going to be a rough one to jump. Memphis is going to be really hard because they're playing really well right now. But I think that there is a world that the Pelicans sneak in. They have to be incredible in the second half, and I think they can do it with Zion Williamson. So let's talk about the Rockets, another team in the Western Conference, who, if you asked me before the season, Andrew, a 5 seed coming into the second half of the season, is that a success or a failure for the Rockets? I would say it was an undeniable failure. The Rockets need to be, or should be, a top 3 team. The Nuggets disappoint me every year. I don't like Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray doesn't do a ton for me. In the playoffs, that's what that's what I judge a lot of the stuff on. Is in the playoffs, what have you done for me lately? The regular season, Jokic is a first-team All-NBA guy. Jamal Murray is a dude that can light you up. But in the playoffs, they seem to have a problem. So the Rockets have a similar problem. The Rockets are a team that disappoint me year after year after year in the playoffs. I expect Harden to be this guy. When he got traded to Oklahoma City, and this is my famous story. He got traded to Oklahoma City. I opened up the Sunday paper, and it was his second or third game starting as a Rocket. And I turned to my dad and I said, this is the best shooting guard in the league outside of Kobe Bryant. That this is the next Kobe. He's not done it defensively, clearly. But offensively, you got to admit that he is doing things that we've never seen a scoring guard do before. Allen Iverson, incredible. Lightning fast, able to cross you up. But his shooting percentages weren't great. Kobe Bryant, the footwork, the intangibles. He knew what the defense was going to do before they did it. But again, took a lot of bad shots, didn't pass the ball very well. Lakers ended up losing a lot of games before he could get Paul Gasol. Harden very quickly became not only the number 1 option to score on the Rockets, but also became the number 1 distributor on the Rockets, even when Chris Paul was there. Even when one of the best point guards, a generational talent, is running point for that team, Harden was still the better passer. He has done everything you want him to do as a guard. Period. I think that he's already put himself in that conversation to be a top 5 guard of all time, or at least shooting guard of all time. Maybe if he can get a ring, maybe he gets another MVP, we can have that conversation, we can revisit it. Is he one of the best guards of the 21st century? But right now, I'd say he's a top 5 shooting guard all time, behind Jordan, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, and Jerry West. You want to put Jerry West as a point guard, fine. So he's a top 5 shooting guard, no matter how you split it. But getting rid of Clint Capella doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And I brought it up when the trade happened. Brought it up during the trade deadline podcast. It doesn't make a ton of sense. Because I like Clint Capella. I think Clint Capella is a really good NBA center. I think that he fit really well with the Rockets. I think he was a really good rebounder. I didn't get it. It didn't make sense to me. And then they go sign these other small ball guys. They go sign guys like DeMar Carroll. They go sign guys who I think that there can be players who can contribute to an NBA championship, but I don't think that they're the type of guys you need to rebound. I don't think they're the type of guys that you need to get you to that next level. And you talk about the Rockets. That's what they need. They need to be able to go get NBA players who can rebound the ball for Harden and Westbrook. Because as much as I like that duo, as much as I enjoy watching that duo play, their starting center right now is PJ Tucker. Okay? Jeff Green has to rebound the ball for him. Robert Covington's good, but in no way do you want him rebounding the ball for you. This is a small ball lineup to put all small ball lineups to shame, to be completely honest with you. This is a team that, if it doesn't work, and I never say this about this guy, because I think that he's a genius. I think that there's a few guys in the world that I will sit behind a microphone and call a genius. He is a genius. Daryl Morey is going to lose his job if this doesn't work. It's a fact. That if this small ball lineup doesn't work, if the Westbrook and Harden thing doesn't work, if this team isn't competing in the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals at the end of the season, he's going to get fired. Point blank. Because a move like this, getting rid of Capella, running a lineup here that's under 6'10", I get it. We're in a small ball era. I get it. We need to move up and down the court quickly. But this isn't, in my opinion, a winning formula. The Warriors were able to do it because Durant was 7 foot. The Warriors were able to do it because Draymond Green could play defense and rebound like a dog. I like PJ Tucker. He's not a dog like that. All right, let's end the podcast at the bottom of the standings. This is a take that I have been seeing a lot on NBA Twitter. This is a take that I've been seeing a lot on the interwebs, and I'm bringing it to you guys for those of you that haven't read it, haven't seen it yet. The Minnesota Timberwolves experiment. When I heard that the Timberwolves have only made it out of the first round once in their history, I was shocked. I didn't want to believe it. I thought that Kevin Garnett had done a better job in the early 2000s of making the Timberwolves a competitive team. No, they only went to the Western Conference Finals 1 year, 2004. The Lakers beat them, then the Lakers got beat by the Pistons. That Lakers team, of course, great. Karl Malone, Shaq, Kobe. Need to say more, I don't. But now the Timberwolves have Karl-Anthony Towns, one of the worst defensive big men of all time. They go get D'Angelo Russell, one of the, I don't want to call him a defensive liability, but I wouldn't call him a defensive stopper. He's a very middle-of-the-road defensive player. Offensively, he's good. We haven't seen enough games of him and Towns yet to really make a good assumption or good analysis of how that duo is going to work. I sneakily think that they are going to go get Devin Booker at some point, too. That is what it feels like they're trying to do. They're trying to go bring in Devin Booker. And this is where it gets kind of risky for him. Minnesota fans, I don't know if you know them. They're pretty tough. They're a tough group of people. Your team's not winning, they're going to be pissy. This Timberwolves team stinks. The next time a team is going to get moved, get relocated, I can promise you it's not going to be the Kings that the people are talking about. Promise you it's going to be the Pelicans. It's going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. This Timberwolves team is not selling tickets the way it needs to. You go turn on a game, the product on the court isn't good enough for fans to show up. I don't blame them for not going to the games if this team's going to win 15, 20 games a year. I don't blame them for not wanting to support that. You got teams like Milwaukee just down the road who are winning 70 games. And the Timberwolves have had multiple first-round picks on their roster, and they can't win a playoff series? Stop it. And then also the problem is that the Warriors are going to get Curry back. Steve Kerr has said recently that when Curry's good to play, when he's completely cleared, they're playing him. This Timberwolves team, this experiment, it's not looking good. And we don't have enough research, we don't have enough numbers to see if D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns is a bad matchup, a bad formula, a bad duo. But right now, currently, Karl-Anthony Towns, you got to step up, man. We expect a lot more from you. So that's going to do it for the podcast. Tomorrow, Film Friday. I haven't yet figured out what movie we want to break down. If you have a movie that you want to send in, we can do it. We can go over, and I'll watch it real quickly, and we can talk about it on the podcast. Otherwise, I'm going to find out what movie I want to see, and we'll watch it, and we'll knock this out. Thank you for listening. Please continue to send our content to all the corners of the earth, because it's really nice to get the nice feedback back as well. So, you got nice things to say, please rate and review us. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, send it to your friends. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you again tomorrow.